Hi there. My last video was about the biggest money mistakes I ever made. Today I'm going to tell you about the best financial decisions I ever made. So I'm going to make another money video from the car. I have gotten a house under contract with a new buyer client, and they are out of state. So I will be attending the home inspection today, and I have about a 30-minute drive. So I'm going to tell you about the best financial decisions I ever made, since my last video was about the worst ones I ever made. I'm Jennifer. If you haven't been here before, I'm a 55-year-old single mom, registered nurse who recently retired from a corporate career where I climbed the ladder and suffered from burnout and disillusionment, and I left. I'm a real estate agent. I've started this YouTube channel. I'm teaching nursing part-time. That's kind of where I'm at. I have 3 sons. They're all grown up, and it's my time now. So if you want to go back and watch my worst financial mistake video, I'll link it right up here. All right, so right off the bat, if you've been around for a while and you've watched some of my videos, you might know that some of the best financial decisions I've ever made have involved investing in real estate. Of course, I'm a registered nurse. I raised my kids on a staff nurse salary. I've always just kind of been pretty practical. I bought my first house when I was 34 years old. I lived there for 5 years with my boys, and they were little. It was a small house, small brick house, just like 1,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, out in the country. And when I moved out of it, I turned it into a rental property instead of selling it. I bought my next house, which was a VA foreclosure, got a great deal on it, did some cosmetic upgrades, and lived there for a total of about 8 or 9 years. And I bought another house. I turned that previous one into a rental. So at this point I had 2 rentals, and I went on like that for several years. I have some videos about my real estate investing, and I'll link one of them up here. But in 2021, after COVID happened and I had kind of been stuck in the house and not spending much money and had started saving more, then I decided I wanted to invest in another property, and I wanted to invest in a property in my neighborhood, which is a historic district, kind of in a growing small town. And a house came up for sale that was a big historic house on Main Street that needed a total rehab. Got the house, and then I had to figure out how to finance repairs, and long story short, I rehabbed a historic house, used historic preservation tax credits, federal and state, and that was the best financial decision that I ever made, that property. Investing in real estate, and in particular that one property, but that's why I have a small portfolio of rental properties, and why in the last 2 to 3 years I've done especially well financially, better than I have before, because I had a corporate job where I had started making 6 figures, and I didn't have to pay income taxes for 3 years. The second best financial decision I ever made was prioritizing education. Academic education, but also personal education. I do have 2 master's degrees, and I took full advantage of my previous employer that I just left. I took advantage of their tuition assistance program, and they basically pretty much completely paid for my 2 master's degrees. I got a master's degree in nursing and a master's degree, an MBA. So if you have an employer with tuition assistance, you may not even have to pay for an education. If you have that benefit, I encourage you to use it, because you should be using all your benefits to their fullest potential, and free education that might increase your earning potential is just a no-brainer. Also, I invested in some personal education. I spent a few $1,000s about 12 years ago taking an integrative health coaching course, because it was a personal interest of mine. I never did build a business with that, but I have used those concepts in my career, in coaching patients and coaching employees. Let me say a quick thing about coaching because it's kind of a pet peeve. Anybody can call themselves a coach, a life coach, a health coach, a leadership coach, an executive coach, whatever coach. But the thing is, coaching is not just telling somebody how to do something. That it's not that at all. Coaching is a lot like counseling in that you help the person to identify their own goals and values and what's important to them, and then you help them take small achievable and meaningful steps towards their goals, and you hold them accountable for taking those steps. And that's what coaching is. I digress. For example, I read nonfiction books most of the time. If I read a book, 90% of the time it's nonfiction. I'm learning something from it. My entertainment is Googling and YouTube searching topics that I'm interested in that I want to learn about. And a lot of that is free. It doesn't even take an investment other than time. Number 3, living below my means. That's something that I've kind of always done just because I grew up the offspring of 2 Depression-era babies. As I was growing up, the mindset about money was a mindset of lack. I've always had a little bit of anxiety about it, a little anxiety about being insecure financially. So that's one driver, and not necessarily a positive one, that has caused me to live below my means most of the time. Now, I do travel. I do spend money on nice meals and really great restaurants sometimes, and I do like to travel because I'd rather spend my money on experiences than things. Not saying I've never bought things. My last video, I told you about how I bought new cars knowing better and did it anyway because you get intoxicated by the new car smell. For the most part, I've lived below my means. I've saved money, and I've had money to put as down payments on houses when the opportunity has arisen. And that's what's gotten me into the situation where I'm able to mostly take this year off to figure out what I want to do next. Sort of an early retirement, an early and temporary retirement. That's what I'm doing this year. A midlife gap year, if you will. As I mentioned in my last video, it was a mistake not to contribute to my 401k when I was young. I didn't know any better, but one of the best decisions that I did make was starting to contribute to my 401k when I joined my previous company that I just left. They had a 6% match. Also, they had an employee stock purchase plan, and I took advantage of that because I was able to buy company stock at a 10% discount. That stock was actually allowed me to buy my last house. I cashed out some of that. So taking advantage of your employer's benefits, whether it's 401k, pension, employee stock purchase plan. I also had an HSA, a health care savings account. And when I left the company, I was able to take that money with me, and I have it in an account to help pay for my health care when I need it. But contributing to my 401k and my other company benefits in the last 10 to 11 years was a great decision. And leading into the next best financial decision, because I contributed to my 401k and had enough for a nice little safety net, I was able to retire from that company at 55 after 10 years of service, and I'm able to use the rule of 55 to access my 401k without penalty if I need to. And that, as I've said before, is my safety net, or my emergency savings for this year while I'm exploring what I want to do. And that also leads into the last decision that I'm going to tell you about. Leaving my 9-to-5 to bet on myself. Financially, it's hard to say yet how this is going to turn out, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, best decision I have ever made that was just for me. Every day is looking a little bit brighter. I've had some anxiety since leaving my career. I've never been without a full-time career, a full-time job, and the fog is starting to lift, and my days are looking much brighter. The future is bright. I don't know what it looks like yet, but it is wide open, and I know that abundance is right around the corner because I gave myself the gift of freeing myself from that prison, really. A 9-to-5 corporate job that you really don't like is a prison, a mental prison. So far, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I hope that this has been insightful and has helped you somehow. As always, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video.